you were, and I still think, are the picture of health, right? But you mentioned that cancer is the silent killer. And you mentioned you are now in the phase of your life that you are no evidence discovered. Is that right?
NED, no evidence of disease.
No evidence of disease. Okay. And you mentioned 5 years is kind of that mark where people claim what?
Typically, according to the medical community, once you reach 5 years with no evidence of disease, then the chances of it coming back or recurring drop dramatically after 5 years. And this goes for any cancer.
Any cancer.
Yes.
So what, you mentioned it's a silent killer, so what is the evidence of disease?
Well, the evidence is when they do some of the tests, and the most basic test for men and the prostate is called the PSA test, and this is a test that is an indicator that something might be wrong. And my message to men is you need to get your PSA checked every year when you have your annual physical, because what they're looking for in the PSA is it trending up. And the PSA is not an absolute test, or it's not an absolute, but it is an indicator something may be wrong. The absolute is taking it to the next step where they actually do a biopsy. But the PSA is a simple blood test that can be done with all your other blood work, and highly encourage men to get this checked on an annual basis. And again, they're looking for a baseline and trending up, as it was in my case. It started trending up.
And you mentioned some statistics. You said, is it 1 in 8?
1 in 9 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in his lifetime. But in the African American community, it's actually 1 in 6, and that's one of the things that's a real puzzle to scientists and all, why African American men are more prone to prostate cancer than other races. And to put that number in perspective again, 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in her life. And these are statistics from the American Cancer Society.
And why do you think so many people don't want to talk about this?
Well, men especially don't like talking about health issues, and when you're talking about prostate cancer, it's something that's very personal in nature.
Yeah.
And as you can tell from some of my comments, it's highly misunderstood. A lot of men think they're getting checked with their PSA with their annual physical, but that's not necessarily so. And it is a little bit controversial because it's not an absolute, but it's the best early detection that's out there for prostate cancer today.
Yeah, and there really is no early symptom. You mentioned, like, if there are symptoms, it might be too late.
It might be too late, and as with any cancer, early detection is key. And if you start exhibiting symptoms with prostate cancer, blood in the urine, your back hurting and all, then it's probably progressed to potentially stage 4, and it could be metastasized into other parts of your body. So that's why it's important to catch it early.
So part of what you do is you educate, you share your story. You mentioned that you lobby. Was it?
I do.
Okay.
I do a lot of I advocate for cancer research. The organization, one of the organizations that I'm with, is Zero Cancer, and we advocate every year on Capitol Hill. And as of right now, prostate cancer, which is Prostate Cancer Research Program, which falls under the Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program, stands at $110 million. And that's through our efforts that number has increased. And with all the turmoil going on on Capitol Hill, I think that's a pretty nice, it's a feather in our cap, if you will, that we are positively making a difference with our advocacy. And then on the other side of the table, I have participated in the Prostate Cancer Research Program as a reviewer, where we review applications from scientists and doctors, and we determine how that $110 million is going to be allocated through grants and all. What applications are they're high risk, high reward projects. So
now having this body of knowledge and experience with the cancer, what percent would you say of receiving a diagnosis is like genetics and just you're just gonna get it because of like who you are versus like lifestyle, would you say?
It's really hard to say,
Yeah.
and that's part of what the research is right now. But yes, a lot of it is genetics. If you have cancer in your family, then that would definitely be getting checked. But as far as lifestyle and all, I'm not sure that I have an answer for you there, because I personally have always led an active, healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
I've always watched what I ate. Again, very active. So again, it can strike anyone.
Are there any like rules of thumb though, would you say? Like definite no-nos? Like you hear, okay, so let's talk about this, like myths, like using the cell phone, staying too close to a microwave, eating certain foods. Are any of that real?
A lot of doctors will tell you that sugar will feed cancer. So probably if you're eating a lot of junk food and all, high in sugar and all, that's probably not a good thing. So
specifically processed sugar, not from fruits.
Correct.
Okay. Gotcha. So let me ask you this: having had all this experience, how have you altered your lifestyle, nutrition, exercise, that kind of thing?
Well, I really haven't. Because I was doing all the right things, if you will, prior to my cancer. I still watch what I eat. I have modified my diet a little bit, not necessarily for the cancer, but I eat more of what I call a modified plant-based diet now. And really do try to be diligent in watching the sugar intake. Again, as I mentioned earlier, our society we're exposed to that on every day. So.
Yeah. If there's one call to action, having met you, Tom, is you mentioned it's the silent killer, and a lot of people don't want to talk about this. Like for me, for example, I know for sure that cancer has been in my family, but I'm just so bent on achieving my goals and building my business and all that. It's like sometimes I don't put my health first. What is the first thing that someone like me or anyone should do to get checked out?
Well, you've got to be proactive with your own health, because nobody else is going to watch out for you. You've got to be proactive with your health, and that means getting your annual physical, and specifically with prostate, asking the doctor to do the PSA.
Why isn't that just part of it?
Because it's as I mentioned earlier, it's a little bit controversial, but as I also said, it's not an absolute, and some doctors don't really believe that that's a valid test, if you will. Insurance doesn't always cover it, so.
But that is the thing, the tests for prostate cancer?
The PSA is what it's called. And it's simple. Again, I emphasize it's a simple blood test.
Are there other tests that we should be asking, that we should get related to, because you mentioned this is just one form of cancer.
There's other tests that can be run, but that's the least invasive. You have the digital rectal exam, which is another form of checking for prostate cancer, where the doctor actually feels your prostate. But then things like a colonoscopy, that should be done on a regular basis, unrelated to prostate cancer. But again, another test that some people may not. It's not the most fun experience, but it's something can save your life. Though it's well worth it.
Tom, tell me this, and I kind of want to close with this thought here, is that having had this experience, you mentioned it's given you a wonderful perspective on life. And I think a lot of times, I'm certainly not immune to this, you sometimes think you're immortal, right?
Yep. And I did.
Yeah. What is your perspective on life?
My perspective on life now is, it's all about paying it forward now.
Yeah.
And I've really dedicated my life to helping others, and whether it be to help them with whatever the challenges are in their life. My book is not, again, just directed to a man that has prostate cancer. It can be directed to anybody that's had any kind of challenges in their life. It's, again, We all have challenges in life on a daily basis, and some are more overwhelming than others. And like my, cancer diagnosis is the top of my list. So, but again, I've dedicated my life to helping others and paying it forward.
You sort of answered this question already, and I think you did. But now, having had this experience, looking through the lens of what you just described, this podcast is called The Pathways to Success, to help individuals achieve their own journey to success. Having this perspective, what is your definition of success?
My definition of success is, of course, everybody's definition of success is different. It's what success is in your own eyes. But if you're, in my case, it's making a difference in the world, positively impacting people, and to me, that's my definition of success. As I may have mentioned this earlier, but the definition of success for my book is an example. If it impacts just one person, and that's my definition of success. Not trying to be a bestseller or anything, but if it's positively impacting people, then for me, that's my definition of success. As you mentioned earlier, my journey has given me a wonderful perspective on life.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just trying to make a difference now, and hopefully not necessarily having a cure for my generation, but creating an awareness for my generation of men, but creating a cure for future generations, so they don't have to go through what we've had to go through today.
Tom, I'm so glad that we turned the cameras back on. I think this was an incredible conversation. I'm personally very inspired by your story, by your book, and thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. I'm very honored.
This has been great.